A powerful tool to help you achieve your financial goals is investment management. Please allow us to broaden your knowledge about this topic. So, an investment is an asset or item acquired with the goal of generating income or appreciation, commitment of resources to achieve later benefits. If an investment involves money, then it can be defined as a commitment of money to receive more money later. In finance, the purpose of investing is to generate a return from the investment assets. The return may consist a gain or a loss. Surplus funds not needed for either operating purposes or compensating bank balances are available for investment. Prudent use of these funds can add to income, though the treasurer must consider a range of investment criteria, types of investments, and investment strategies before selecting the appropriate investment vehicle. This chapter describes these issues as well as the accounting controls, policies, and procedures required for an ongoing investment program. So when considering various forms of cash investment, the treasurer should first consider the safety of the principal being invested. It would not to do invest company funds in a risky investments in order to earn extraordinarily high returns if there is a chance that any portion of the principal will be lost. So accordingly, a company policy should limit investment to a specific set of low-risk investment types. So also some consideration should be given to the maturity and marketability of an investment. So for example, if an investment in a block of apartment houses appears to generate a reasonably risk-free return and a good rate of return, it is still a poor investment from a cash management perspective because the investment probably cannot be converted to cash on a short notice. So accordingly, it is best to only make investments where there is a robust market available for their immediate resale. So the final consideration when making an investment is its yield. And this is truly the last consideration after the previous items have already been reviewed. So within the boundaries of appropriate levels of risk, maturity, and marketability, the treasurer can then pick the investments with the highest yield. Since these criteria tend to limit one to very low risk investment, the yield will also likely to be quite low. So always remember that the company cannot run the risk of loss on its investments because it is critically important to keep cash available to feed the company's growth engine. Since the risk is also associated with return, the treasurer must once again favor low yield investments for minimal risk. Within the investment boundaries just noted, there are a number of investment options available. Here are the most common ones that have low risk levels, short maturity dates, and high levels of marketability. First is the banker's acceptance. Applying for a banker's acceptance is similar to applying for a short-term fixed-rate loan. The borrower goes through a credit check and sometimes extra underwriting processes. Next is the bond's near maturity date. There tends to be a minimal risk of loss or gain on the principal amount of this investment, since there is a low risk that interest rates will change so much in the short time period left before the maturity date of the bond that it will impact its value. And a variation on this type of investment is the municipal bond, for which there is no tax on the interest income. However, in consideration of this reduced liability, its yield also tends to be somewhat lower than on other types of bonds. So the next types of investment option will be discussed by Ms. Jalakay. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Jalakay A. Figura and I'm going to discuss the other investment options. Certificate of Deposit or CD. These certificates are essentially term bank deposits, typically having durations of up to 2 years. So they usually pay a fixed interest rate upon maturity, though some variable rate CDs are available. So, isa sa pwede nating maging investment option is itong certificate of deposit. So, nakalagay dyan na up to 2 years yung duration niya. So, when we say certificate of deposit kasi, parang financial product siya na in-offer ng mga banks or mga credit unions which has a bit high of rate of interest. So, kumpara sa mga usual na savings account na sobrang kaunti or sobrang liit lang ng interest rates. Also, CDs are less liquid than regular savings or checking account. Why? So, kasi dito sa CD, you typically can't access the funds before it matures. Kumbaga, sa certificate of deposit, hindi mo dapat i-withdraw or hindi mo dapat galawin yung dineposit mo until the maturity date. So, kapag winidraw mo yon before the term ends, syempre, merong penalty sa'yo yun. So, magbabayad ka pa. Pero, dito naman kasi sa CD, ikaw naman yung mamimili ng terms, ng duration, kung gaano ba katagal yung gusto mo, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, or even 2 years. So, nasa agreement naman kasi yan lahat. So, syempre, yung interest rate mo na makukuha is nakadepende kung gaano ba kadami yung i-deposit mo, gaano ba katagal, etc. So, in general, the longer the term and the larger the deposit will result in a higher interest. Next is commercial paper. Commercial paper is generally not secured, however, staying with the commercial paper issued by blue-chip organizations minimizes the risk of default. Most commercial paper matures in 30 days or less, and rarely matures in greater than 270 days. Another investment option is commercial paper. When we say commercial paper naman, usually, ino-offer siya ng mga companies, mga corporations na kumbaga kinakailangan ng funds for their short-term obligation or liabilities. Sinasabi din dyan na commercial paper is not secured. Why? Kasi it is not usually backed up by any form of collateral. So, kumbaga kapag ang isang company is na-default na or hindi na kaya magbayad, or yung mga investor, maaring doon sila magkaroon ng problema. Also, kapag din sinabi kasi nating blue chip organizations, sila naman yung mga companies na kilala na bilang may magandang reputation, sila na yung mga successful, na kumbaga, dahil doon, mamiminimize natin yung risk of default. Kasi syempre, masisigurado mo na mababayaran ka nila kasi nga maganda nga yung reputation nila sa So, kilala sila. So, imposible naman na biglang mabankrupt sila. So, unlike kasi sa mga company na bago pa lang, doon tayo walang kasiguraduhan. Pero dito sa commercial paper, rare naman yung mga scenarios na nagkakaroon ng default. So, isa naman sa advantage nito is dahil nga short term lang yung range niya, di ba sinabi nga 1 to 270 days. So, di na siya kailangan ng or hindi na ni-required ng SEC or Security and Exchange Commission na i-register siya. Kumbaga, less hassle na rin sa both parties. Money market fund. This is a package of government instruments usually composed of treasury bills, notes, and bonds that is assembled by a fund management company. The investment is highly liquid, with many investors putting in funds for a little as a day. So, sa money market fund naman, unlike sa mga certificate of deposit na di mo pwedeng galawin yung pera mo until the term ends, yung money market fund naman, highly liquid naman siya. Ibig sabihin, you have an instant access to your funds. So, masasabi natin na yung money market are liquid and low risk kasi they only invest in short-term investment. Katulad nga ng sinabi dyan na treasury bills, notes, and bonds. So, this money market fund is a good alternative for the typical savings account. Kasi etong market fund na to will keep your money secure while earning returns in the short-term run. Repurchase agreement. This is a package of securities, frequently government debt, that an investor buys from a financial institution under the agreement that the institution will buy it back at a specific price on a specific date. So, eto naman repurchase agreement, yung mga investor, yung nag-a-act as a short-term lender, sila yung kumbaga bibili ng mga securities sa mga dealer na nag-a-act naman as a short-term borrower. So, ito yung agreement na from the word repurchase, kumbaga, napagkasunduan nyo na ibebenta mo yung specific na security, tapos bibilhin mo ulit yun sa investor the following day. Pero syempre, pag binili mo yun, syempre, mas mataas na yung price nun, kumbaga, sa pagbebenta mo sa kanya. So, kunyari, binenta sa'yo ng 100,000 yung security. So, kapag binili ulit nila yun, may interest ng kasama. So, let's say, babayaran mo na sa'yo yun ng 105,000. Ganon. So, also, masasabi nating secured and safe itong repurchase agreement kasi yung security parang nagfa-function na siya as collateral. So, kung hindi man mabili yung ulit nung nagtinda sa'yo ng security, so may manghahawakan ka pa din. Last is U.S. Treasury issuances. The United States government issues a variety of notes with maturity dates that range from less than a year, or ito yung mga certificates, through several years, yung mga notes, to more than 5 years. Ito naman, nandito naman yung mga bonds. So, the wide range of maturity dates gives one broad range of investment options. Also, there is a strong secondary market for these issuances, so they can be liquidated in short order. U.S. government debts of all types are considered to be risk-free and so have lower yields than other forms of investment. Next. So, itong nakikita nyong table sa screen, ito lang yung parang summary ng investment option. Parang dito, pinagko-compare lang kung ano ba yung investment type, yung maturity, yung issued by, so, secured ba or not. So, for example, ito, bankers' acceptances. Maturity date niya is less than 1 year. And, ang nag-i-issue naman sa kanya, banks. So, yung interest rate, fixed. So, interest paid, discount to face value. Secured, yes. Capital access prior to maturity, secondary market available, and so on. So, kung titignan nyo lang yung table, makikita nyo kung ano ba yung pinagkaparehas ng mga investment option na pwede nating gawin kung sakali mag-i-invest tayo. Next.
My name is Jean Alexis Sanose and I will going to discuss different investment strategies under Chapter 8 Investment Management. Earnings Credit Strategy. The earnings credit rate is a regular evaluation of interest that a bank pays on deposits of a customer. ECRs are rates that banks put to offset service charges. Since the bank uses the earnings from these idle balances to offset its service fees, if a company has minimal cash balances, then this is not an entirely bad strategy. The earnings credit can be the equivalent of a modest rate of return. And if there is not enough cash to plan for more substantive investments, leaving the cash alone is a reasonable alternative. Matching strategy simply matches the maturity date of an investment to the cash flow availability dates listed on the cash forecast. For example, ABC Company's cash forecast indicates that $80,000 will be available for investment immediately. but must be used in 2 months for a capital project. The treasurer can invest the funds in a 2-month instrument such that its maturity date is just prior to when the funds will be needed. This is a very simple investment strategy that is more concerned with short-term liquidity than return on investment, and is most commonly used by firms having minimal excess cash. Laddering strategy. A laddered investment strategy is an approach based on allocating portions of your total investment at different times, rather than investing everything at all once. For example, ABC Company's cash forecast indicates that $150,000 of excess cash will be available for the foreseeable future, and its investment policy forbids any investments having a duration of greater than 3 months. The treasurer could invest the entire amount in a 3-month instrument, since this takes advantage of the presumably somewhat higher interest rates that are available on longer-term investments. However, there is always a risk that some portion of the cash will be needed sooner. In order to keep the investment more liquid while still taking advantage of the higher interest rates available through longer-term investment, the treasurer breaks the available cash into thirds and invests $50,000 in a 1-month instrument, another $50,000 in a 2-month instrument, and the final $50,000 in a 3-month instrument. As each investment matures, the treasurer reinvests it into a 3-month instrument. By doing so, ABC always has $50,000 of the invested amount coming due within 1 month or less. This improves liquidity while still taking advantage of longer-term interest rates. Tranche cash flow strategy. This strategy requires the treasurer to determine what cash is available for short, medium, and long-term investment, and to then adopt different investment criteria for each of these investment tranches. The exact investment criteria will vary based on a company's individual needs, but here is a sample of how tranches might be arranged. Short-term tranche is treated as cash that may be needed for operational requirements on a moment's notice. This means that cash flows into and out of this tranche can be strongly positive or negative. Thus, return on investment is not a key criterion. Instead, the treasurer focuses on very high levels of liquidity. The return should be the lowest of the 3 tranches, but should also be relatively steady. Medium-term tranche includes cash that may be required for use within the next 3 to 12 months, and usually only for highly predictable events, such as periodic tax or dividend payments, or capital expenditures that can be planned well in advance. Given the much higher level of predictability in this tranche, the treasurer can accept longer-term maturities with moderate levels of both volatility that have somewhat higher returns on investment. Long-term tranche includes cash for which there is no planned operational use, and which the treasurer feels can be safely increased for at least 1 year. The priority for this tranche shifts more in favor of a higher return on investment with an attendant potential for higher levels of volatility and perhaps short-term capital loss, with a reduction in the level of liquidity. Portrayed graphically, the tranches would appear as noted in Exhibit 8.2. The corporate cash balance should rarely decline into the long-term tranche, with occasional forays into the medium-term tranche, while the cash level will vary considerably within the short-term tranche. An example of the numerical result of a tranche cash flow strategy is shown in Exhibit 8.3, which assume a baseline return to be the return on 1-month treasuries, with a target of increased basis points (BPS) above that standard for the medium-term and long-term tranches. To engage in the tranche cash flow strategy, the treasurer should regularly review the cash forecast and adjust the amounts of cash needed in each of the three tranches. Inattention to these adjustments would result in an anticipated cash requirement when the cash in the company's long-term tranche is tied up in an excessively long-term, illiquid investments. The preceding strategies are mechanical. The treasurer analyzes cash flows and engages in investment based on cash availability. The next two strategies are more speculative, since the treasurer is guessing at the possible direction of future yields. Riding the yield curve is a strategy of buying long-term securities and selling them prior to their maturity dates. This strategy works when interest rates on short-term securities are lower than the rates on longer-term securities, which is normally the case. An example of an upward sloping yield curve is shown in Exhibit 8.4, which is based on the constant maturity treasury rates in May 2009. In such an environment, the longer-term securities with their higher interest rate that are held by the company will increase in value over time. For example, ABC Company has $75,000 of cash available for investment for a 3-month period of time. The treasurer invests in a 6-month security and sells it after 3 months, achieving a higher than usual rate of return. However, if the yield curve had changed during the interim so that short-term rates were higher than long-term rates, then the treasurer would have sold the security and earned a below-market return on the investment. Credit rating strategy. The treasurer buys the debt of a company that may be on the verge of having its credit rate upgraded. By doing so, the investment ends up earning a higher interest rate than would other investment with a comparable credit rating. This strategy works best when the treasurer is very familiar with the debt issuer and has some confidence in his credit assessment. However, the company's stated investment policy may prevent the treasurer from buying debt below a fairly high credit rating, which eliminates this strategy from consideration. Also, it is difficult to time a possible credit rating upgrade to be within the term of an investment. And finally, delving into lower grade debt increases the risk of an outright default on payments by the debtor. For all of the investment strategies noted here, the treasurer must closely monitor the credit rating of the debt issuer. A credit downgrade can result in a substantially lower return to the company if the treasurer needs to sell the debt prior to its maturity date. The strategies outlined here involve a broad range of ongoing investment activities. The more active ones call for additional staffing that a treasury department may not have available. If so, outsourcing investment management, as noted in the next section, may be viable alternative.
Good day everyone, I'm Diane Estela Cruz and I will be discussing outsourced investment management, risk reduction strategies, transfers of debt securities among portfolios, and recognition of deferred tax effects on changes in investment valuations. Outsourced investment management. Let us know first what is outsourced investment management. The term refers to the full or partial outsourcing of an organization's investment function to a third party, such as an asset management firm or investment consultant. So let us continue reading the PowerPoint. A treasurer may conclude that investment management is not a core competency or have little funding for a professional in-house investment staff. If so, it is possible to shift cash into a separate account that is managed by outside investment advisors. Under this arrangement, the outside firm invests the cash under the term of a customized investment agreement with the company. The company can choose from a variety of possible investment strategies as well as restrict investment to certain classes of assets. This approach the company access to an experienced group of investment managers who presumably uses strong systems of control when initiating and tracking transactions. The fees a company incurs through an outsourcing arrangement can be quite competitive in comparison to the cost of maintaining a similarly experienced in-house staff. So, makikita sa example na pataas yung percentage in our latter years. Next is risk reduction. A simple risk reduction strategy is to avoid investments in the securities of any single entity in favor of investments solely in one or more money market funds. These funds provide instant diversification across a multitude of issuers, with the attendant risk being constantly reviewed by a staff of risk management professionals. The use of money market funds is especially cost-effective for smaller treasury departments that cannot afford the services of an in-house investment manager. So there are three risk reduction strategies. Using the inherent diversification of money market funds is the simplest means for reducing risk. So, hindi lang dapat tayo nag-i-stick to one kapag nag-i-invest tayo, dapat diverse yung pag-invest natin para ma-reduce din yung risk. Next is setting up a CDARS account can greatly improve the amount of FDIC insurance coverage of a company's investment. So CDARS or CDARS is an acronym for Certificate of Deposit Account Registry Service. In short, CDARS allows a business to invest in certificates of deposit or CDs held by many different FDIC insured banking institutions. So it can achieve full FDIC coverage for the total sum. So last one is the use of one-to-one sweeps provide extra protection in the event of a bankruptcy. So the overnight sweep can be set up as a one-to-one sweep where the company's funds are used to buy a specific asset. An alternative is for the bank to pull funds from multiple customers and buy an asset in the bank's name, which it liquidates in the morning and apportions back to its customers.
Hello everyone, I'm Rosemary Feire Merata and I will going to discuss accounts for investment under Chapter 8 Investment Management. So what is marketable securities? Marketable securities are investments that can be easily liquidated through an organized exchange. So ang marketable securities na or also known as short-term investments ay isang liquid asset na kung saan ay ready na siyang ma-convert into cash or through organized exchanges. Like for example is in stock exchange or bond exchange. And usually, makikita ang market securities under the current asset ng balance sheet ng isang company. Like for example, is yung stocks, bonds, treasury bills, certificate of deposits, and etc. And usually, ang market securities ay umaabot lang ng 1 year or less. And meron itong kakayahan na ipagbili or ipagbenta sa public stock exchange or public bond exchange since madali siyang maliquidate. And also, kapag mataas yung liquidity ng isang market security, may tendency ito na mababa ang risk since hindi naman ito pang long term. Then, additional lang is, di ba meron siyang mataas na liquidity. Ibig sabihin nun, madali lang siyang matransfer or makonvert. Next. So, merong tatlong categories ang marketable securities. Una is yung available for sale. Available for sale includes both debt and equity securities. It contains those securities that do not readily fall into either of the following two categories. So, ang available for sale daw ay parehong debt and equity securities na ipinagbibili na may intention na ibenta ulit bago pa matapos or maabot yung maturity date nito. Moreover, yung mga securities under this category ay available sa market and yung price nito is based din sa market price. These securities are reported on the balance sheet at their fair value, while unrealized gains and losses are charged to an equity account and reported in other comprehensive income in the current period. The balance in the equity account is only eliminated upon sale of the underlying securities. So, yung unrealized gains and losses na galing sa security na to ay hindi reflected sa net income, unlike those from trading investments. Pero makikita siya sa other comprehensive income classification hanggang sa ma-sold out or mabenta na ito. And since yung net income niya is reported sa income statement, therefore, yung unrealized gains and losses ng available for sale securities ay hindi magre-reflect sa income statement. So, if a permanent reduction in the value of an individual's securities occurs, the unrealized loss is charged against earnings na magre-result sa bago and lower cost basis in the remaining investment. And then all the interest, realized gains or losses, and debt amortization are recognized within the continuing operation section of the income statement. Next. So, dito sa slides na to, makikita natin yung different transactions under available for sale security. So, yung unang entry is, the Arabian Night Security Company has purchased $100,000 of equity securities, which it does not intend to sell in the short term for profit, and therefore it designates as available for sale. Its initial entry to record the transaction is as follows. So dito sa entry number 1, yung Arabian Night Security Company daw ay nag-purchase ng $100,000 ng equity securities, pero wala silang intention na ibenta ito in a short term period, kaya naging under siya ng available for sale. Kaya ang magiging entry niya ay yung investment na available for sale na $100,000 ay nasa debit side. And then yung credit side naman niya is yung cash na ginamit niyang pambili ng shares, which is yung $100,000 din. So yung pangalawang transaction naman is meron na ditong unrealized loss na nangyari since kino-consider ng management yung $15,000 as loss to be temporary declined. Kaya marereport na siya under other comprehensive income. Kaya nasa debit siya, which is nagkakalagay yon ng $15,000. While yung investment na available for sale naman na kanila na nasa debit ay ngayon ay nasa credit na, which is nagbabalue siya ng $15,000. Next. So, next transaction available for sale is management then obtains additional information indicated that the loss is likely to be permanent one. So, it then recognized the loss with the following entry. So, yung loss on equity securities na $15,000 ay nasa debit. Tapos, yung unrealized loss on security investment na nakareport sa other comprehensive income na $15,000 ay nasa credit. So, yung pang-apat naman na entry is another month passes by and the fair value of investment rises by $3,500. Since these gains exceeds the value of your newly written down investment, hindi siya mare-recognize ng management even though na merong value ng investment na naka-still be less than sa original amount nito. So instead, the following entry is used to adjust the investment value of on the balance sheet. So yung investments available for sale na $3,500 ay nasa debit, and then yung unrealized gain on securities investment na nakarecord din sa other comprehensive income na $3,500 ay nasa credit. So, yung pangalawang category naman ng marketable securities ay held to maturity. So, this category includes only debt securities for which the company has both the intent and the ability to hold them until their maturity time. Ang held to maturity ay isang security or investment na kung saan ay binibili ng isang company upang maging pag-aari niya ito hanggang sa marating nito yung maturity date. So, most common form ng held to maturity ay yung bonds and other debt vehicles such as certificate of deposits. So, their amortized cost is recorded on the balance sheet. Then, these securities are likely to be listed on the balance sheet as long-term assets. Pwede rin siyang ma-record as current assets if meron itong maturity ng 1 year or less than. Then, securities with maturities na lagpas 1 year ay may state na siya as long-term asset and mag-a-appear na siya sa balance sheet at the amortized cost, meaning the initial acquisition cost plus any additional cost incurred to the date. So, if marketable securities are shifted into held to maturity category from debt securities in the available for sale category, yung unrealized holding gain or loss ay dapat mag-continue to be stored in the equity section while being gradually amortized down to zero over the remaining life of each security. So, yung next side naman is yung example ng held to maturity transaction. So, ito yung example ng held to maturity transaction. So, yung entry number 1 is nag-purchase ng $82,000 of debt securities ang Arabian Night Security Company at face value. And then, yung company is may kakayahan na i-hold ang security na binili nila until its maturity date. Kaya naman, yung entry niya dito ay yung debit na $82,000 na may title na investment in debt securities held to maturity ay nasa debit side. And then, nasa credit side naman yung $82,000 na cash since yun yung ginamit nila pang bayad or pambili ng debt securities. So, yung pangalawang transaction naman is kaya nagkaroon ng loss on debt investment ng $41 under debit kasi yung management is na-consider nila na may permanent reduction sila kasi yung debt issuer nila ay nag-file ng bankruptcy. Kaya need na i-repay sa debt holders yung 50 cents nilang share. Kaya yung 41,000 na nasa debit. Then, naka-record siya as loss on debt investment. Tapos, yung investment in debt securities naman na credit, which is held to maturity, is nasa credit side. So, next. So, yung last category naman ng marketable securities ay trading securities. So, this category includes both debt and equity securities that the company intend to sell in the short term for a profit. So, ang trading securities ay isang investment na kung saan ang company ay gusto mag-purchase and then ibenta yung securities nila para magkaroon ng profit in a short-term period. Companies do not intend to hold such securities for a long period of time. Thus, they will only invest if they believe they have a good chance of being compensated for the risk they are taking. So, these securities are recorded on the balance sheet at their fair value. And then, yung mga securities under this category ay nakarecord sa balance sheet as their fair value and nakaposition ito as current asset. So, for example, ng transaction ng trading securities is dito sa unang entry, nasa debit yung $50,000 na held trading investment. Since yung company ay nag-purchase to trade its securities para kumita in the short term, then nasa credit side naman yung cash niya since yun ang pinagpalit niya para mag-purchase ng securities. And then yung credit na 50,000 is yung value ng cash na binili nila ng security na yon. Next. Transfers between available for sale and trading investment. An investment designated as a trading security can be shifted into the available for sale portfolio if investment with no recognition of a gain or loss on the value of the investment, since this type of investment should have been adjusted to its fair value in each reporting period already. If a gain or loss has arisen since the last adjustment to fair value, this amount should be recognized at the time of designation change. If an investment designated as available for sale security is shifted into trading portfolio of investment, any gain or loss required to immediately adjust its value to fair value should be made at once. So this entry should be include an adjustment for any prior write-down in value that may have occurred when securities were classified as available for sale. So next slide is yung example ng transaction ng trade to available for sale transactions. So, dito sa example entry na to, yung Arabian Nights Company ay nagmamay-ari ng $17,500 na equity securities and gusto nilang ibenta yon para magkaroon ng kita. Kaya naka-classify ito under the held for tradings. However, yung intention nila na ibenta ay nagbago at gusto nilang i-hold yon for longer period. Kaya naging available for sale na siya na may value na $17,150. And then nagkaroon sila na loss na $350. Kaya ang magiging entry nito ay available for sale na may value na $17,150. At yung loss on equity securities na may value na $350 ay nasa debit side. Tapos yung held for trading investment na may value na $17,500 ay nasa credit side. So next. Accounting for investments in debt securities. A debt security can be classified as either held for trading or available for sale. Kagaya nung diniscuss natin and dinefine natin para sa equity securities or as held to maturity. The held to maturity portfolio is intended for any debt securities for which a company has the intent and ability to retain the security for its full term until maturity is reached. An investment held into the held to maturity portfolio is recorded at its historical cost, which is not changed at any time during the holding period unless it is shifted into a different investment portfolio. The only exception to this rule are 1. The periodic amortization of any discount or premium from the face value of the debt instrument depending on the initial purchase, and 2. Clear evidence of a permanent reduction in the value of investment. So next reporter po. Thank you.
Next is transfers of debt securities among portfolios. The accounting for transfers between debt securities portfolios varies based on the portfolio from which the account are being shifted, with the basic principle being that transfers are recorded at the fair market value of the security on the date of the transfer. The treatment of gains or losses on all possible transfers is noted in Exhibit 8.5 in the picture indicated in the slide. The offsetting entry for any gain or loss reported in the other comprehensive income section of the income statement goes to a contra account, which is used to offset the investment account on the balance sheet, thereby revealing the extent of changes in the trading securities from their purchase costs. Next is recognition of deferred tax effects on changes in investment valuation. A deferred tax benefit or tax liability should be recognized alongside the recognition of any change in the fair value of an investment listed in either a trading or available for sale portfolio or of a permanent decline in the value of a debt security being held to maturity. The tax impact varies by investment type and is noted as follows. So before that, let us see Exhibit 8.6, Accounting for Gains or Losses on Securities. So the flow chart shown in Exhibit 8.6 shows that decision tree for how the gains and losses are handled for different types of securities portfolios. The decision flow begins in the upper left corner. For example, if a security is designated as available for sale and there is a change in its fair value, then the decision tree moves to the right and asking if there is a permanent value impairment. If so, the proper treatment matches that of a loss for a held for trading security. If not, the proper treatment is listed as being reported in the other comprehensive income section of the income statement. So let us know that tree tax impact varies by investment type and is noted as follows. Number 1 is gains or losses on the trading portfolio. Number 2 is gains or losses on the available for sale portfolio. Number 3 is gains or losses on the held to maturity portfolio. So gains or losses on the trading portfolio is the deferred tax effect recognized in the income statement. If there is a loss in value, then debit the deferred tax benefit account and credit the provision for income taxes account. If there is a gain in value, then debit the provision for income taxes account and credit the deferred tax liability account. So for the second one, gains or losses on the available for sale portfolio, the same treatment as noted for gains or losses on the trading portfolio, except that taxes are noted in the other comprehensive income section of the income statement. So for the last one, gains or losses on the held to maturity portfolio, there is no tax recognition if changes in value or are considered to be temporarily in nature. If there is a permanent reduction in value, the treatment is identical to the treatment of losses in the trading portfolio as just noted. So that's all. Thank you for listening.
Good day everyone, I am Jennifer Portillo and today I am going to discuss the first part of the topic entitled Investment Journal Entry. So, short overview muna tayo sa mga topic. So, first is accounting for marketable equity securities. Second is transfers of equity securities between available for sale and trading portfolios. And last is accounting for investment in debt securities. So, yung una, under accounting for marketable equity securities, una is initial investment designated as held for trading. So, to record an investment that management intends to trade for profit para sa short term, i-debit natin yung investment in equity securities held for trading, tas i-credit natin yung cash. Tapos, next is yung initial investment designated as available for sale. To record naman an investment that management intends to hold for a long term, i-debit natin yung investment in equity securities available for sale tas credit cash. So, sa gains or loss on investment designated as held for trading naman, meron tayong dalawang entry. So, yung first entry, i-recognize muna natin dun yung sa current period na pag bumaba yung value ng investment designated as trading security, pati na rin yung effect nito sa cash. So, debit loss on equity security investment, debit deferred tax benefit, and credit investment in equity securities held for trading, and credit provision for income taxes. So, sa second entry naman, i-recognize na natin yung increase ng value ng investment, pati na rin yung effect ulit nito sa tax. So, debit investment in equity securities, held for trading, debit provision for income taxes, tapos credit gain on equity security investment, and credit ulit sa deferred tax liability. Sa gain or loss on investment designated as available for sale naman, meron ulit tayong first and second entry. Dito natin makikita yung entries natin for unrealized loss and unrealized gain. So, sa unang entry, nandito yung unrealized loss natin and related tax effect nito. So, first is debit unrealized loss on equity security investment, debit deferred tax benefit, credit investment in equity securities available for sale. So, sa sa second entry, yung sa unrealized gain and related tax effect na naman nito is debit investment in equity securities available for sale and credit unrealized gain on equity securities investment and credit ulit sa deferred tax liability. So, in impairment in value of equity investments classified as available for sale, when a drop in value ng available for sale investment is judged to be other than temporary, the first journal entry should be used to recognize the drop in value. So, i-recognize muna natin yung pagbaba ng value ng available for sale investment. The entry includes the initial recognition of related income tax benefit on the transaction. If one had previously recognized an income tax benefit associated with the loss, but prior to its classification as a permanent decline in the value, the offset to the deferred tax benefit would have been the investment account itself. If so, shift the offset from the investment account to an income tax liability account as shown sa second journal entry. So, yung entries natin for this part is debit loss on equity securities, debit deferred tax benefits, credit unrealized loss on available for sale securities, credit provision for income taxes, debit loss on equity securities, and credit unrealized loss on available for sale, and credit provision for income taxes. Under naman sa transfers of equity securities between available for sale and trading portfolios tayo. So, shift investment designation from a trading security to an available for sale security. So, to shift yung designation ng security na as available for, as trading security, tas gagawing available for sale security, the journal entry includes provision for the recognition of any gains or losses on the fair value ng securities transferred since they were last market or marked to the market. So, dito, i-debit natin yung investments available for sale, debit loss on equity securities, and i-credit natin yung investments held for trading and gain on equity securities. So, in shift investment designation naman from available for sale security to trading, bali yung sa kabaliktaran naman ng isa, una, ang gagawin natin is to recognize the unrealized loss and gains. Tas, sa first entry, ina-assume nito yung recognition nung unrealized gains and losses, while sa second entry naman yung sa first entry, dun i-assume yung unrealized loss, while sa second entry naman, dun i-assume yung unrealized gain. So, i-debit natin yung investment held for trading, debit loss on equity securities, credit investment available for sale, credit unrealized loss on available for sale securities, tapos debit investments held for trading, debit unrealized gain on available for sale securities, and credit investment available for sale, and credit gain on equity securities. So next is sa accounting for investment in debt securities na naman na tayo. So first is the initial investment designated as held for trading. So para kapag-record natin ng investment na that management intends to hold for a short term and para sa profit, ida-debit natin yung investment in debt securities held for trading and credit cash. So sa initial investment designated as available for sale naman, dito naman yung management intends to hold the debt security for a long-term as a long-term investment. Dito i-debit natin yung investment in debt securities available for sale, tas ika-credit naman natin yung cash.
Good day everyone, I am Ronami P. Mercadejas and I will be discussing the continuation of investment journal entries. So next po is, let's talk about the overview of my topic. Number 3, continuation of accounting for investment in debt securities. And then 4, transfers of debt securities among portfolios. So, accounting for investment in debt securities. Initial investment designated as held to maturity. To record an investment in debt securities that management has the intent and ability to hold to the debt maturity date. So, ang ide-debit natin dito is investment in debt securities held to maturity, while sa credit naman is cash. So next naman, under accounting for investment in debt securities is gain or loss on debt investment designated as available for trading. The first journal entry records the immediate recognition in the current period of a loss due to a drop in the value of that investment designated as a trading security. So, the second journal entry records the immediate recognition of a gain due to an increase in the value of a debt investment designated as a trading security. So, ganun din, ang ide-debit natin dito is loss and debt security investment and investment in debt securities held for trading, while sa credit naman is investment in debt securities held for trading and gain on debt securities held for trading. So next is under pa din po ng accounting for investment in debt securities, gain or loss on debt investment designated as available for sale. The first journal entry records the immediate recognition in the current period of a loss due to a drop in the value of a debt investment designated as an available for sale security, which is reported in the other comprehensive income section of the income statement. The second journal entry records the immediate recognition of a gain due to an increase in the value of a debt investment designated as an available for sale security. So, ganun din po. Ang ide-debit po natin dito ay ang unrealized loss on debt security, investment, deferred tax benefit, and investment in debt securities available for sale. While sa credit naman is investment in debt securities available for sale, and unrealized gain on debt security investment, and last, deferred tax liability. So next is under pa din po ng accounting for investment in debt securities is impairment in value of debt investment classified as held to maturity. To record a loss on a held maturity debt investment, which only occurs when management considers a drop in value to be permanent in nature. So, ang nakakredit po dito is investment in debt securities held to maturity, while sa credit naman po is loss on debt investment. So, last topic po about investment in journal entries is transfers of debt securities among portfolios. Number 1, shift investment designation from the available for sale debt securities portfolio to the trading debt security portfolio. Any debt security shifted from the available for sale portfolio to the trading portfolio must be recorded at its fair market value on the date of the transfer. The first journal entry records the recognition of a loss on the transfer date, while the second entry records a gain. So, ang nakadebit po dito is investment in debt securities held for trading, loss on debt securities, and investment in debt securities held for trading, and last is unrealized gain on debt securities available for sale. While sa credit naman po is investment in debt securities available for sale, unrealized loss on a debt, investment in debt securities available for sale, and gain on holding debt securities. So next pa din po, under pa din po ng transfers of debt securities among portfolios, shift investment designation from the available for sale debt security portfolio to the held to maturity debt security portfolio. Any debt security shifted from the available for sale portfolio to the held to maturity portfolio must be recorded at its per market value on the date of the transfer. The first journal entry records the recognition of a loss on the transfer date, while the second entry records a gain. So, ang nakadebit naman po dito is investment in debt securities held to maturity, loss on debt securities, investment in debt securities held to maturity, and unrealized gain on debt securities available for sale. While sa credit naman po is unrealized loss on debt, investment in debt securities available for sale, and investment in debt securities available for sale, and gain on holding debt securities. So next po is under pa din po ng transfers of debt securities among portfolios is shift investment designation from the held to maturity debt security portfolio to the available for sale debt security portfolio to record any accumulated gain or loss on a held to maturity debt security being transferred into the available for sale portfolio, which is recorded in the other comprehensive income. The first entry records a loss on the transaction while the second entry records a gain. So, ang nakadebit naman po dito is investment in debt securities available for sale, unrealized loss on holding debt securities, and investment in debt securities available for sale. While sa credit naman po is investment in debt securities held to maturity, investment in debt securities held to maturity, and unrealized gain on holding debt securities. So last transaction po under pa din po ng transfers of debt securities among portfolios is shift investment designation from the held to maturity debt security portfolio to the available for sale debt security portfolio to record any accumulated gain or loss on a held to maturity debt security being transferred into the held for trading portfolio, which is recorded in earnings. The first entry records a loss on the transaction, while the second entry records a gain. There are no unrealized gains or losses to recognize, since no gains or losses are recognized for held to maturity debt investment. So, ang naka-debit po dito is investment in debt securities held for trading, loss on holding debt securities, and investment in debt securities held for trading. While sa credit naman po is investment in debt securities held to maturity, investment in debt securities held to maturity, and gain on holding debt securities.
Good morning, everyone. I am Azel Katie Baladja, and I am going to discuss the investment reporting and investment management controls. So the first topic is the investment reporting. It is useful to have a summary level report itemizing the investment, current market value, and return on investment for each investment made. If the investment portfolio includes debt, then the report could be expanded to include either individual or average maturity dates. So when we are doing an investment report, it is important that all the information needed in that report should be well itemized so that the report will be easily to understand. Mas maayos natin makikita if yung particular investment is may maayos na return. Likewise, if yung investment portfolio naman includes debt, importante din na included dito yung kung kailan ba yung maturity date so that mas makakapag-comply tayo on time. So the next topic would be the investment management controls. The process of issuing funds for an investment is unique in that every step in the process is a control point. Without regard to controls, the only step required to make an investment is for an authorized person to create and sign an investment authorization form. itself a control point and deliver it to the bank, which invests the company's fund in the designated investment. The controls noted in the flowchart are described at greater length as follows in the sequence from the top of the flowchart to the bottom. So, to easily understand this statement, sinasabi lang dito na mahalaga yung pagkakaroon ng investment management control since we want to control over the size and yung duration ng isang investment and that the earnings from that are maximized. Syempre, we want to make it sure that all our investment will be worth it and yung returns will be better. So later on, i-explain natin yung flow chart about this investment management controls. So the next one would be the create and approve a cash forecast. There must be some basis for both the size and duration of an investment. So, ganito lang yan, di ba? In a company setting, di ba, hindi naman lahat ng available funds ng isang company ay ini-invest natin. So, like for example, sa stocks or bonds. It is important to conduct a cash forecast so that the problem on availability of funds will be prevented. So like for example kasi 'di ba, there are times na merong emergency funds na needed yung isang company, and like for example, nangyari yung unexpected situation and yung lahat ng funds or lahat ng extra funds, excess funds ng isang company is nilaan nila for investment. So, maaapektuhan nito yung liquidity ng isang company. So, dito sa Exhibit 8.7, dito pinapakita kung paano nire-report yung sa investment. So, gaya nga nung sabi ko kanina, dito naka-itemize yung kung anong klase ng investments, kung ilan yung number of shares and its market value, magkano mo na purchase yung particular investment na yun, and the rate of returns. And then from that, makukuha natin yung sa total dividends or YTD. So the next topic is record proposed investment and duration on the cash forecast. It helps to also formally write this information directly on the cash forecast so there is no question about the details of the proposed investment. So, yung pagkakaroon ng cash forecast is important to record to have a clear picture and understanding about the investment. So, dun nga, dito malalaman natin kung gaano ba yung duration or yung time na mag-range yung isang investment and ano nga yung exact amount or the rate of return na makukuha natin from that particular investment. So the next topic is obtain and document quotes for each investment. An investment officer may have a favorite bank and will continue to invest with it even if rates are not competitive. So, di ba there are times na kahit hindi ganun kataas yung return ng isang investment, mas pinipili pa din ng isang company na dun i-invest yung mga excess funds nila kasi once na na-build na yung trust and relationship nyo from that particular company in which the investment are made, dun na natin mas pinipiling mag-invest. So, when we say kasi quotation sheet, it helps a company to know what is the best price with best return of an investment. So next is issue assigned investment authorization form to the issuer. Banks will not invest funds without assigned investment authorization form from the company. So in investing funds kasi, it is imperative that there should be an authorization form from a company to the bank to ensure that the investment has been well managed. So next slide is match authorization form to transaction report. The bank may unintentionally invest funds incorrectly or neglect to invest at all. So, ito nga yung kahalagahan ng pagkakaroon ng authorization form na diniscuss natin sa previous slide. So, yung authorization form, it matches the signed authorization form to investment transaction report to verify and know what action has been taken by the company, and to make it sure that all the investment made by the company are recorded and walang negligence na naganap sa pag-handle ng funds. So, the Exhibit 8.8 shows the system of controls for investment. So, yung first part natin to is the cash forecast, which includes creating a cash forecast, record proposed investment and duration on cash forecast. So, dito pumapasok yung duration ng isang investment, kung gaano siya tatagal, and kailan siya magmamature when it includes investment or the debt. And the third one is the obtain approval of investment recommendation. So, yung next part naman is the request for interest rate or quotation. It includes obtain investment quotes, which shows kung ano yung rate ng particular na investment na ginawa ng isang company. And then, the next one would be the investment authorization form. It will be delivered to the bank, and dito nag-i-issue ng investment authorization form. So, yung investment transaction report naman, ito naman yung nanggagaling sa bank, which yung company is in-entrust niya yung pag-handle ng investment transaction niya to the bank. So, dito includes yung match authorization form to transaction report. And then yung the last one would be the cash forecast, request for quotes, investment authorization, investment transaction report. So, it should be well reported and included in one file. Then, it will be forwarded in records to the accounting department. So, the next slide would be forward records to accounting for storage. There is some risk that a person in the investment department will alter investment authorization documents after the fact to hide evidence of inappropriate investments. So, it is important to immediately forward the document to the accounting department so that changing information or discrepancy will be avoided. Kasi 'di ba, there are times na may fraud talaga na nangyayari sa investment. So, para maiwasan ito ay dapat there should be stamp and receipt date on each document para ma-verify na yung all information included in that investment transaction are true and not hindi siya dinaya ng particular person na merong personal interest lang from that investment. In addition to the basic process flow just noted, the following controls are also useful for ensuring that the document investments were actually obtained and stored. The first one would be the periodically match the approved cash forecast, quote sheets, and investment authorization to actual investment completed. Though all the supporting paperwork may be in order, it is still possible for an investment officer to shift funds to some other unauthorized form of investment. So, to prevent yung problem ng pagkakaroon ng shifting of funds, so dapat talaga nagkakaroon ng match or dapat nagmamatch lahat ng supporting documents to the actual investment made as reported by the issuing entities. So, yun nga, mahalaga talaga yung pagkakaroon ng record and yung pagta-transfer ng record na to sa accounting department so that hindi magkakaroon ng discrepancy and hindi madadaya lahat ng information included in that investment transaction. So, the second one would be the assigned securities custody to independent party. It is not common for a company to physically control securities. Instead, they are more commonly stored by a third-party custodian, which represents a higher level of control. So, if there are times na kailangan yung security ay stored within a company, it should be known that a person handling that security is not responsible for recording the securities in accounting in any ways. So, para maiwasan yung pagkakaroon ng fraud or ayun nga, yung pagkakaroon ng problem when it comes to managing the investment. So the last topic would be the controls noted here assume that a company is investing in a simpler investment such as CDs that are handled through a bank. It will be necessary to expand these controls for more complex investments that are not routed through banks. So yun nga, making investment controls are important so that we will assure that all the investment made by the company would give them a better rate na magbe-benefit talaga yung isang particular company. And that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Patricia May Fermin. I will be going to discuss the investment management policies. Investment policy is used to define the level of risk that a company is willing to tolerate and defines the exact types of investment vehicles to be used or not used. So, ang investment policy ay willingness ng company na mag-take ng risk at mag-decide kung anong type of investment ang dapat gamitin. For example, the policy may state that all investment must be capable of total liquidation upon notification, or that some proportion of investments must be used in the class of liquidity. So, ang investment policy is kailangan closely aligned siya sa investment strategy through the pagdi-divide ng mga available cash into short-term, medium-term, at long-term tranches. Generally speaking, the policy should severely restrict the use of any investment that cannot be liquidated within a short period of time, since this gives a company maximum use of money of special opportunities or emergencies. So, sinasabi na ang investment policy is hindi nila pinaprovide ang short-term period kasi mas nakakapag-provide ito ng mas maraming pera sa isang company. The second policy criterion is risk. Many companies have decided that they are not in the business of making investment, and so they avoid all risk, though they may be losing a significant amount of investment income by putting all excess cash in US government securities. So, isang business, hindi naman pwedeng kailangan hindi ka mag-take ng risk. So, the final policy criterion is return on investment. For the purposes of a company's short-term investment, this should be the list of 3 investment criteria. It is much more important for a company to achieve high levels of liquidity and risk minimization than it is to achieve a high rate of return. So, kapag nag-risk ka, magkakaroon ka ng high return. There are multitude of possible investment policies that the Treasury can adopt. The following policy possibilities are sorted into the categories. First, fund investment. Second, investment in debt securities accounting. Third, investment portfolios transfer between. Fourth, investment portfolios transfer of debt securities among. And lastly, marketable equity securities accounting. Let's talk about the funds investment. At least blank should be invested in overnight investment and in negotiable marketable obligation of major U.S. issuers. No more than blank percent of the total portfolio should be invested in time deposits or other investment with a lack of liquidity. The average maturity of the investment portfolio should be limited to blank years. Investment in foreign commercial paper should be limited to those unconditionally guaranteed by a prime U.S. issuer and fully hedged. Investment in commercial paper should be limited to those of companies having a long-term senior debt rating of A or better. Investment in bank certificates of deposit should be limited to those banks with capital accounts exceeding $1 billion. Investment should only be made in investment backed by U.S. government debt obligations. Securities physically held by the company should be stored with an accredited third party. If an employee is responsible for the physical security of securities held by the company, then this person cannot be also responsible for recording the securities in the accounting records. Investment in debt securities accounting. The unrecognizable amount of gains or losses on held-to-maturity securities shall be regularly reported to the Board of Directors. So, yung policy nito is designed to reveal any gains or losses that will be recognized if these securities will have to portfolio designation, so the board is aware of hanging gains or losses. That security shall not be classified as held to maturity unless sufficient investments are already on hand to cover all budgeted short-term cash requirements. So, ang policy na to is meron siyang ability to hold the securities for the required period of time. It is more specific in stating that all the anticipated cash flows to fully recover the other investment before any of the securities received to the held of maturity classification. Investment portfolios transfer between. The Board of Directors shall be notified of the reasons for any significant shift in the designation of securities among the held-to-maturity, available for sale, and trading portfolios and the approximate impact on different categories of income. So, ang policy naman to is designed to require yung management is ma-justify yung mga actions ng mga shifting securities between the portfolios, or it more likely to reduce the amount of shifting. Investment portfolios transfer of debt securities among. The Board of Directors must authorize all shifts in investment designation out of the held-to-maturity portfolio. Accordingly, the Board of Directors shall be notified of the reason for such a designation and give its formal approval before the designation change can be made. Marketable equity securities accounting. All securities purchased shall be designated as trading securities at the time of the purchase. So, ang policy nito is intended to avoid designation of an investment as available for sale, which would allow the management to avoid recording short-term changes in the fair value of the investment reported earnings. All losses on securities designated as available for sale shall be considered permanent. So, by using this policy to require an immediate write-down on all losses, management no longer has the ability to manipulate earnings by making assumption that losses are temporary in nature. Available for sale securities shall not be sold solely to recognize and related gains into the fair market value. So, in policy nito is designed to set an ethical standard for management to prevent such actions from taking place. To bring investment policy into a better alignment with the market, use backtesting with a company's historical investment records to see what various changes to the policy would have done to the company's investment profile.
Good day everyone, I am Moira Francesca P. Galolo and I'm going to discuss investment management procedures. The investment management procedures is the dated procedures used for initiating an investment as well as for transferring investments between portfolios. Next slide. Exhibit 8.9 Sample Investment Policy. Objective: to invest excess cash in only top quality short-term investments for optimum total return commensurate with corporate liquidity requirements. And yung objective niya is makuha yung client's investment goals and it lays the foundation for the client's financial advisor relationship and details how the financial advisor will make investment decisions. Next is the liquidity. Liquidity shall be provided by minimum and maximum limits as follows. Number 1 is at least $80 million shall be invested in the overnight investments and in negotiable marketable obligation of major U.S. issuers. Next is no more than 50% of the total portfolio shall be invested in time deposits or other investments with a lack of liquidity, such as commercial paper, for which only the dealer and the issuer make a market. Next slide. Next is the diversification. Diversification shall be provided through a limit on each non-government issuer. These are general limits and in each case, quality review may result in elimination of a lower limit for issuer. And yung overnight or repurchase investment must meet the quality criteria but are not subject to limits on the amount invested. And next is the operating procedure. Payments shall be made only against delivery of a security to a custodian bank, and your security shall be delivered from custody only against payment. and yung due bills by a bank will be accepted for delivery only under exceptional conditions, and no due bills issued by a dealer will be accepted. Next slide. Next is the maturity limits. The average maturity of the entire fund shall be limited to an average of 2 years. The maximum maturity for each category is as follows, and makikita naman siya dyan sa picture sa baba. Yung US government is 5 years, municipal obligations 2 years, bank certificates of deposit 1 year, bankers acceptances 1 year, bank time deposits is 90 days, and commercial papers 270 days. Next slide. Next is the external investment management. On an annual basis, the treasurer shall examine the cost-effectiveness and risk management benefits associated with outsourcing the company's investment management function, and report on the results of this analysis to the board of directors. And sa external investment, yung treasurer is nag-examine ng cost of effectiveness and risk management benefits. And yung external investment means the implementation of investments project through the use of capital owned by non-residents who may, in addition to monetary policy, and adopt as well the form of technology and knowledge. And next is the reporting. The investment portfolio shall be marked to the market at the end of each calendar quarter, and the resulting changes in valuation, including a clear statement of gains and losses, shall be reported to the CEO, CFO, and treasurer. Next slide. Next is Exhibit 8.10. Investment Procedure Statement Retrieval Number Treasury 04. Subject: Determination of investment amount and type, and investment execution. Number 1. Purpose and scope. This procedure is used by the Treasury staff to invest funds in accordance with the corporate investment policy. Next is Procedure 2.1. Create a cash forecast. Treasury staff. Number 1. Create a cash forecast covering the next weeks, including standard cash inflows and outflows, and also incorporating expected capital expenditures and special adjustments. 2 is compare the new forecast to the forecast developed for the preceding week to see if there are any large variances in the weekly cash results. Investigate and adjust as necessary. 2.2. Record the proposed investment on cash forecast. Treasury staff. Number 1. Based on the amount of excess funds projected to be available, note below each week on the forecast the proposed amount of funds to invest, the type of investment, and the duration of each proposed investment. The type of investment should be based on the approved corporate investment policy. 2. Create a copy of the forecast and file it. Then send the original cash forecast to the treasurer. Number 2.3 is approve investment recommendation. Treasurer. Number 1 is upon receipt of the cash forecast, review it in general for errors and omissions, have the financial analysis, revise the forecast as necessary. Number 2 is compare the proposed types of investments to the approved corporate investment policy to ensure that they are acceptable. 3. Verify the proposed investment duration does not exceed the approved corporate investment duration policy. 4. Sign and date the forecast in the approval block. And number 5. Forward the cash forecast to the treasury staff. Next is 2.4. Obtain investment quotes. Treasury staff. Number 1 is upon receipt of the latest approved cash forecast, print the latest request for interest rate quotations form. Number 2 is verify the banks listed on the form are approved for investments by the company. 3. Contact the banks for rate quotes on the investment types, duration, and amount noted on the cash forecast and enter the quotes on the form. Number 4 is sign in the quotes compiled by filled in the approvals block of the form. Number 5 is review the quotes with the treasurer and enter the actual investment to be made in the final investment block of the form. Number 6 is the treasurer signs in the approved by field in the approvals block of the form. And number 7, forward the form to the investment manager for investment replacement. And lastly, file the cash forecast. 2.5. Issue investment authorization form, investment manager. Number 1 is extract a copy of the investment form from the form's cabinet and fill it out, entering the investment type, amount, and duration noted in the final investment block of the request for interest rate quotations form. 2. Sign the investment form. Number 3. Fax the form to the bank quoting the highest rate on the interest rate quotations form. Number 4. Call the firm to verify receipt of the fax. Number 5. Sign in the investment placed by field in the approvals block of the request for interest rate quotations form. Number 6. Create 2 copies of the request for interest rate quotations form and investment form and file both copies. Number 7. Forward the original versions of both the request for interest rate quotations form and investment form to the Treasury Clerk. Next slide. 2.6. Match authorization to transaction report, Treasury Staff. Upon receipt of an investment transaction report from the bank, match its term to those listed the investment form and request for interest rate quotation form. If there are discrepancies, contact the bank to determine why and forward this information to the treasurer. 2.7. Forward records to accounting treasury staff. Number 1. Assemble the cash forecast, request for interest rate quotations, investment form, and investment transaction report into a single packet. Number 2 is create a copy of the packet and file it by date. Number 3 is forward the original version of the packet to the general ledger accountant to be recorded in the accounting system. And lastly, 2.8 Record investment transactions, accounting staff. Upon receipt of the approved investment packet, record a credit to the cash account and a debit to the investments account. Next is, if the investment is into bonds, update the bond ledger report, and if the investment is into stocks, update the stock ledger report. And number 4 is, stamp the investment packet as having been entered and file the packet.
Good day everyone, I am here to report the summary. So after that long discussion, nalaman natin na investing cash is a key role of a treasurer, and this chapter provided a great deal of guidance for doing so. In sorting through the large number of strategies, controls, policies, and accounting issues related to investment. So as treasurer, we have to keep in mind these 3 items. So una, investment policy is critical. If there is a large quantity of cash to be invested, then there is a correspondingly large risk of losing it through inappropriate investment. So, narinig natin kanina yung mga investments policy na dapat nating isaalang-alang before we start or do an investment. Kasi nga naman malaking pera ang gagamitin natin. And if we don't follow such policy, malaking pera din ang malulugi sa atin. Lalo na at treasurer tayo. So pangalawa is return is least important. Do not let return on investment become the key criterion for an investment strategy, or else the attendant increase in risk could result in a significant loss of principal. May kasabihan nga na the higher the risk, the higher the return. Pero as treasurer, hindi dapat ang return on investment ang priority. Dapat security and safety ng pera ang priority natin. Kung puro return kasi ang iisipin natin, mga treasurer, malaki ang chance na piliin natin yung mga investments with higher return which has higher risk din. Tandaan na pera ng company ang hawak at i-invest natin, kaya dapat doble seguridad tayo. Last is use all controls. Because of the large volumes of cash involved, there is a risk of investment fraud as well as of inadvertently making incorrect investment. Strong controls mitigate this risk. Sa panahon ngayon, uso ang mga investment scams and frauds since lahat naman tayo gusto yumaman o magkapera. Pero sabi ko nga kanina, hindi natin pera ang i-invest dito kundi pera ng company. Madali sana mag-risk kung pera natin, pero hindi eh. Since hindi nga natin pera, use all our controls na. Investigate first, check mo muna yung pag-i-investan mo kung legit ba o hindi. At itodo na natin ang pag-i-investigate to lessen the risk and to protect the money na i-invest natin. In short, the treasurer's primary goal in investment management is to guard the principal. A respectable return is nice but not as critical as ensuring that no cash is lost. The investment strategy should be built around this key underlying goal. Tandaan na hindi return ang mahalaga sa ating mga treasurer kung hindi ang pag-secure ng pera ng company. And that's all. Thank you for listening.